If you bought a Boss 200 series pedal and realize it only has 5 programmable patches, you probably need to do a firmware update, and I'm going to show you how to do it. What is up, everyone? Man Bun Melad here. This video is going to be pretty straight to the point, so let's get into it. So this method is going to work for any of your 200 series pedals. I've already done this on my MD200 a couple months ago, but I just got a EQ200, and we're going to update the firmware on this today. All the instructions are on the Boss website for each individual pedal, and we're going to go all through them, and there's a few minor differences as far as what knobs and stuff you need to press, but it should be pretty self-explanatory, and we'll go over some of the differences. Let's get into a list of things that we're going to need. Obviously, we need the pedal. We'll need a 1/4-inch cable of some sort to turn the unit on. We'll need a micro USB to USB-A computer cable. And then you'll need your coaster for a nice beverage, just in case you screw something up. The last thing you'll need is a power source. So I have the batteries inserted into the EQ200. It takes 3 AA batteries. I also have an external power source that'll power it as well, just in case one of the 2 power sources go. So if I lose power during the update, it won't break the pedal. First thing you want to do is go to the Boss website and find your pedal. I'll also have links to where you need to go if you want to use those instead. So on Google, we'll just type in Boss EQ200. First thing that pops up. If we open that up, we can go down to downloads. So we'll see 4 things here on any of these. You'll have the system program for your pedal. You also have an SMF player for Windows, Mac OS, and Mac OS X. So you want to download, and I'll tell you this when you get into the system program, but you're going to want to download one of those SMF players, depending on what system you have. I have Windows, and I already have that player downloaded. So go into the EQ200 system program, and the first thing it's going to show you is how to check the version. So this is the same for all of them. To check the version, we're just going to hold down the memory and plug in the 1/4-inch jack into input A. And it'll show us the version. Now the EQ200 is a little nicer because you have this nice LCD display, so it says version 1.04. We want to be at version 1.1 to get the expanded memory. So we'll just unplug that, and I'll show you guys how to check on the other pedals as well. This is pretty much the same display for the MD200, OD200, and the DD200. So on this pedal, we do the exact same thing. Hold down memory, plug something into input A, and then it'll show your version number. Now we're at 1.10, which is where I want to be. So this one's already updated, we're good. So we'll go back to the Boss website and we'll see what the update history is for each pedal. For most of them, I think they're at this time, which is October 2020, we're at version 1.10 is the highest. The main feature that I'm looking for is the increase from 5 to 128 storable memories. We'll scroll down, we can see that we need our EQ200, we need our USB cable, we need the UPD SMF, and a computer. So we got all those, and of course, power source. And they'll give you some cautions and that they're not going to help you if something happens. So we need to download our EQ200 sys V1.10 zip file. And this is going to be the same for OD, MD, or your DD200. So I'm going to scroll down here first, agree and download. So I've gone ahead, opened up that zip file, and taken the EQ200 sys V1.10 folder and put it on my desktop. So we can look here on my desktop, we can actually see we've got my EQ200 folder, I've got my MD200 folder, which I previously used, and the UPD SMFJ.exe. And this is going to be the update software that you want to use. So going back to the website to look at all of the instructions. First, it's going to tell you never to power down the unit during the update, because some bad stuff can happen. It can turn into a brick. Then it says to turn down all equalizer slides. I'm not sure if that's necessary. On every other pedal, it says to turn down all the knobs. It doesn't hurt. And we'll go ahead and connect the pedal to the computer. Step 3, hold the channel button down and plug the input jack in. Now, this is where it's a little different for these pedals. So the EQ200, you're going to hold the channel button down. On all the other pedals, you're going to hold a different button, but it's basically going to be whatever parameter this is. So on the MD200, it's the rate. The DD200, it is the time. And on the OD200, it's the parameter button. So you just go ahead and hold that knob down and then plug in into input A. So for the EQ200, we'll hold down the channel and plug in input A. All right, it's going to say updater USB. And we can see on the computer that it said it's setting up the device. Okay, so we should be ready to go. If you have any of the other pedals, the display will say UPD. So next we're going to go to the computer and run the UPD SMF software. On the MIDI out, we're going to select EQ200. So if you don't see your pedal there, then it has not connected correctly to your computer. I'm using Windows 10, and for the MD200 and for the EQ200, I have not had a problem ever connecting either of these. So then we're going to find the folder for our system update. We're going to hit Path, and I believe it's Select on Mac. And mine is on my desktop. There's my EQ200. I'll hit OK. And then we'll hit Scan SMF. So it has found the files, and we'll hit Send. So we can see these two LEDs lighting back and forth. We have a progress bar up here, which is, I think, a little nicer than on the MD200. But we are in the middle of it, so let's see how long it takes. All right, it looks like it went through. So on the computer it says send SMF complete, and over here it says OK. It'll also say OK in kind of weird letters on the other 200 units. Now we can hit OK over here, and we're done on our computer. We'll exit out of there, make sure we don't do anything else. And then on the EQ200, go ahead and disconnect that and reconnect the input. So it's going to say now processing. We're going to let it go through that, make sure we don't turn it off during that. And then we're good. On the other pedals, it'll say PRC when it's doing that processing. I do want to tell you about a small issue I ran into when I was updating the MD200. After I set it up and hit the send button on the update software, it said 1% complete and was stuck at 1% complete, and it did not have any indication on whether or not the update was happening on the MD200. All it said was UPD up in the corner. There was no indication of whether there was a percentage update or a bar that was moving like there was on the EQ200. And the LED lights were not flashing like you could see on the EQ200. I wasn't really sure what was going on there, so I went ahead and let it go for a couple minutes, and it did nothing. So I really had no other option. I unplugged the MD200, disconnected the USB, and plugged it back in. And I had a couple connection issues when trying to connect the USB back into the MD200. Wasn't really working, so I restarted my computer, made sure I shut down the MD200 for a little bit, and then I plugged it all back in and started the update, and it worked fine. And you could see those, again, I was able to see those two LEDs flashing back and forth. The unfortunate thing is they don't tell you that those lights are supposed to flash back and forth in the instructions, but they do, so definitely keep an eye out for that. If they're not flashing, then the update is not occurring and you might be stuck at 1%. I can't guarantee that you're not gonna brick it if you unplug it and the update's going on the computer, but it's not going on the pedal. But in my instance, in my case, it did. The worst case scenario is if it does break, you have to send it in to get fixed. Or if you bought it and you have a return period, you can go ahead and maybe return the pedal, say it was dead. But I just want to let you guys know about that experience. Well, now we'll go ahead and verify we have the correct firmware version. Hold down the memory, plug in our jack, and we have version 1.10, so we're good. So I go ahead and restart it one more time, just kind of its normal state. And check the memory. We'll actually see that we don't have more than 4 programs plus the manual. So there is a way to fix that. Basically, the issue that we're having here is you can actually set the maximum memory that you're allowed to access. So it's automatically set to 4, and then when you do the firmware update, it stays at 4, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So we're gonna open up the menu on this pedal, and we're gonna find extent from memory or extent to memory. So it's gonna be really, I guess, easy to see on this pedal. On the other pedals, it's not gonna be quite as obvious, but it can be done the same way. And I'll go ahead and show you both. So when it's on, we'll just hit the channel and memory button at the same time. And now we're into the menu. So we're gonna use the memory and channel button to scroll through these, and we're gonna look for the extend to. All right, so we can see our extend from is set to man, so it's on the manual is the first one, and M4 is the last one. So all I have to do is use the on-off button or memory button to change this. So on-off to decrease it, memory to increase it, and I'll just hold down the memory button until we get to 127. And there we go. So we can hit the channel and memory button at the same time to get out of the menu. And then we can just hit this button and we can see that we can go all the way as far as we want to go. So that is how you set up the EQ200. So let me show you how to set up the other ones. And to enter the menu on this one, we're going to hit the tap, division, and memory buttons at the same time. So then we'll be able to use this knob, the rate knob at the MD200, the time on the DD200, and the param on the OD200 to be able to scroll through any of our parameters. So what we're looking for is ETF and ETT. So this is extend from and extend to. Now once we want to change one of these parameters, we'll hit the button down and it'll open it up. And we'll see that we're extending from man, or the manual, that's an M-A-N. And we'll go ahead and click out of that, scroll over to ETT, which is 2, extended 2. Click down, and we can see I'm at N32. I can go ahead and change that all the way up or down as I see fit. Hit down, and then hit the tap, division, and memory buttons, and we are back. So I can hit the memory, and we can see we're not limited to 4. The DT200 is going to have a tab, division, and memory button as well. You just hit down, and the OD200 will have a param button and memory button that you also hit at the same time to enter the menu. It's really as simple as that. Now that you have your pedal updated, go ahead and check out my Boss 200 series MIDI guide to see how to control any of these pedals through MIDI. Hopefully this video helped you out. If it did, hit that like button down there below. Really helps me out a lot. And if you want to hear more about what I'm working on, like gear reviews, tips, tricks, techniques, that kind of stuff, feel free to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you're notified whenever I release a new video. But hey, until next time, rock on.